made this for the radio, man. Nah. I made this for the street.
Half a brick, hold a brick, couple zips, flip a brick, got some chips, get some rib gold. That's the only thing I hear when I put on the radio.
I need y'all to spread this all around the hood.
Half a brick, hold a brick, couple zips, flip a brick, got some chips, get some rib gold.
Let's go.
That's the only thing I hear when I cut on the radio. Songs about dope. Now lady, let me in my brains dirty, I'ma let it go. I'ma let it go. I'ma let it go. Lady, let me in the brain dirty, I'ma let it go.
Guys doing some
Everybody think they trap or die. You ain't from the hood, boy, you try to trap and lie, dog.
Second one, guillotine. Third one,
I know it when I see him. I've been redeemed from that. 13, I bought a double pack. Hit the block a couple days, then I bought a quarter pack. When I say a quarter, I ain't talking about zero. I'm talking 7 grams off a brick. Kilo. See, real recognize real. And you just sitting there talking, I'ma tell it how it is. And I ain't boasting on it, had to get it how I live. You say that you a goon, that ain't really how you live. You sitting there lying to these kids. He about to do a bid while you chilling at the crib. Cause he think his favorite rapper hard as he say he is. He don't know that you ain't half the goon that you say you is. Half a brick, hold a brick, couple zips, flip a brick, stack some chips, get some rib gold. That's the only thing I hear when I cut on the radio. Songs about dope. Now lady, let me in the game dirty, I'ma let it go. I'ma let it go. I'ma let it go. They didn't let me.
too specific, but I guess how long before a fight do you begin your fight camp, and then about what would your weekly regimen probably be? Would it be 5-6 days a week, twice a day? I don't know. I just want to.
Yeah, I do about, really I don't ever quit training. I'm always in the gym. Even on holidays, pretty much every day. You know, I'm always in the gym. After my fight, if I'm like a little bit beat up or whatever, I take a week off and then I go back to training again. If I don't really have any marks on me, if I fight on Saturday, I'll be at training on Monday.
That's what.
I mean, so I think what guys think, oh well, I had a fight, I need to take 2 months off or a month off. That's stupid. You need to always be training. Because after your fight, instead of taking a month off, go back to the gym and just work on your technique and get better. You know, I feel like when you're in your training camp, that's when you're getting in shape and getting ready for the fight. When you're like, don't have, maybe your fight's 6 months away or whatever, for the first 3 months, just work on your technique, work on getting better, you know. And then usually my training camps are like, I'm always training, but I step up my training camps about 8 weeks out, 2 months, and then I'm going usually twice a day, 5 times, and then I go work out 1 time on Saturday.
Who's your next fight, and who do you really want to have a fight with?
My next fight is Mike Pyle, June 8th. Who I want to fight, don't really matter. You know, who I would want to fight would probably be the guys that beat me. You know, that's or the guys that I don't really like. You know, Kurt Pellegrino, I got to get that one back. Gleason Tabao, I'd like to revenge that. But you know, I'll fight whoever. It don't really matter. Fun fight would be Chris Lytle. Not this Chris Lytle. I just like to fight, you know, fighters, guys that, you know, try to go in there and finish. I don't like to fight guys that just want to try to hold me down for, you know, 15 minutes and win a decision.
You look heavier than Pyle does in person. What do you walk at?
I walk at about 190, 195.
And how soon do you fight?
About 8 weeks from my fight when I start. started like really actual trying to diet.
What's your favorite moment in fighting? Like period, like the one moment that.
One of my favorites was when I fought Spencer Fisher. You know, I'm friends with him now. Obviously, I don't want to rematch against him. But you know, it was kind of like my coming out party. Everyone really didn't think I was very good. You know, everyone was talking crap, saying, "Oh, he's gonna get smashed," blah blah. I came out and we put on a good, exciting fight for 5 rounds. You know, and it was a split decision. I lost a split decision, but I didn't really feel like I didn't feel like anyone lost in the fight. You know, and another fight was probably Melvin Gilliard. Was probably one of my favorites. Mac Danzig was probably one of my favorites. The fight with Melvin, you know, I felt like I already lost once in the UFC, and I was losing to Melvin, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna be done. You know, they're gonna cut me again. And I came back, triangled him, you know, and got the win. And then the Mac Danzig fight, you know, I just had a lot of personal stuff going on in my life, and I just went in there and overcame it, you know, and got the win.
What? I know there's a lot of sport-specific lifting now, like Ross Emmett and guys like that that have like a more geared towards MMA and other sports.
Yeah.
Is there something that you follow as far as the weight?
I don't really lift very much. You know, I watched this thing with Freddie Roach, and he said that he don't really have his boxers lift upper body, and so I haven't really been lifting my upper body. But I ride a lot. I ride my bike a lot. And I run a lot, and I do lift my lower body. You know, and then I lift maybe my upper body like once a week.
What are some of your favorite conditioning practices outside of that, as far as drilling goes?
Drilling goes? I like to, you know, drill jiu-jitsu. You know, like that stuff that we're working with, the triangle and the arm drag and stuff like that. You know, I just like to. I don't like to get into the most advanced moves. I feel like I'm a basic fighter. I feel like that's how I'm gonna win my fights. So, you know, just like they say in wrestling, you know, basics win you the match, you know. So I try to stick to my basics and master those, you know, as opposed to, I don't want to learn 500 moves and then I only use 10 of them, you know. So I try to learn 10 good moves and be really good at them.
How old were you when you first had your first fight, and then what gave you like the motivation to like keep on going after like losses and stuff like that?
Yeah. I was 18 when I had my first fight. I didn't know what I was doing. I was fresh out of high school. I only wrestled. You know, I didn't do any type of martial arts. Didn't do taekwondo, nothing, you know, only wrestling, and went in there, fought, I liked it, and kept doing it, you know, I just kind of liked it, you know, I like the competition, wrestling one-on-one, and so's fighting. That's the best aspect that I like, you know, is it's one-on-one. I don't have to rely on anyone. I go in there, I do it myself. That's what I like. And then what makes me keep fighting after I lost? Yeah, I think a lot of guys, you know, they lose and they feel like, oh, I'm not good enough, I have to quit, you know. But you're gonna lose. You're gonna have ups and downs in your life. You gotta get back up and keep going. I think that's the biggest thing, you know. You can't give up on yourself. If you give up on yourself, then who's gonna believe you? You know? After you lose, learn something from it, come back and be better. Don't give up. That's the easy way out. That's like committing suicide. Like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm gonna kill myself. You know, quitting. You know, giving up and quitting is the same thing.
You mentioned.
You're gonna lose, you know, unless you're like John Jones or something. But he'll lose one day.
You mentioned. You mentioned.
It might be in a few weeks, actually.
You mentioned running and cycling. How many miles do you feel is optimal in your running and cycling?
When I run, I usually run between 3 and 5 miles, you know, and then I do my biking. I try to do an hour of cardio, so like in the mornings, usually I run and bike is a lot of my workouts, or I go to technique, go to Muay Thai class or Jiu-Jitsu class and do the technique. But I usually do an hour, so I bike for 40 minutes and run for 20 minutes, or you know, hour and a half of running and biking.
Nice.
Hour of cardio.
What's the jiu-jitsu, the base style of martial arts you started with now? Did you start jiu-jitsu or did you start with?
Yeah, I mean, I started with everything.
You started right with everything?
Yeah, I started doing everything. When I first started training, I was like training with guys that really didn't know what they were doing. I didn't have good instructors, you know. You guys have a mate here. This is a nice gym, you know. I started in a basement with a raggedy mat with a coach that didn't know what the hell he's doing. So you guys have a mate here. But you know, I started everything. I like boxing, I like jiu-jitsu, I like wrestling. I think that's the key, you know, especially now, is everyone, you have to be well-rounded. That's how Pat Miletich kind of, you know, put his name out there, is because all his guys, he learned that you have to be well-rounded, you know, and then all his guys were well-rounded. They could do wrestling, they could do striking, they could do jiu-jitsu. So, and then all of his guys started winning, you know, Jim Pulver. We had like 4 of the 5 champs at one time.
About how long do you think you'll continue to fight? What do you see you want to bow out of it?
You know, it depends. Some days I love fighting, and some days I hate it. It's like, God, I hate this. I just don't like the politics and the fighting. There's a lot of politics, you know. Who has cool tattoos, who has a red mohawk, all that stuff. You know, probably like 5 years or so. I've had a lot of fights. I had 90 amateur fights. 40.
How old are you now?
44 pro fights. Yeah, 90 amateur fights. When I started in Iowa, it wasn't really sanctioned. So when I started, you could go to this little club, and they had fights every week. So I was just fighting people out of the crowd. But those people like hate on that, but those were some of the toughest dudes I fought. Because, well, for one, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I had 90 amateur fights, and I only won one by submission. so that tells you how much I knew about the submission game. And you know, those were some of the toughest dudes I fought, because they came to fight. You know, now some dudes out here are just not very good. I don't know. They're not real fighters. You know, I would fight dudes. I remember this little Mexican dude that I fought. He was like, didn't look like he was good at all. He was like a little chubby dude. Man, he was beating me up for a while. It was a scrap. You know.
Growing up, who are some of the people that inspired you? What fighters and athletes?
Pat Miletich is one of the guys that inspired me. After I fought Spencer, Jim Pulver came up to me and was like, man, you got to come to Miletich, blah, blah, blah. And Spencer too, obviously, you know, he said come up. So I went up there and started training. Before I trained in Canada, I lived in Canada for like 3 months. That's how I kind of started actually going to people that knew what they were doing. There was this dude named Curtis Brigham that would come down. He came down and he fought in one of the shows that I fought in, the little weekly amateur fights. And he said, man, come up to Canada, blah, blah. So I went up there and lived there for like 3 months. And and did just jiu-jitsu, and then I went to the boxing gym too. And you know, so he's one of the people that inspired me. You know, Pat Militich, Spencer, Tim Sylvia, all my coaches. You know.
Anybody else? Nope. All right.
Oh, one more. What is one of your favorite after fight meals?
So it's after the fight or
After the
weigh-ins?
fight. After the fight.
Probably like, I like eating meat, so like steak and pork chop, whatever. Some kind of meat and something like that.
All right, well, thank everybody for coming out.
Yeah.
But your boy been born again. You think we care how much dodo you got? How many kilos you move? How many fofos you got? How many bad girls you bag? How many Lambos you got? Every single song I hear.